Looking at the week that was and looking ahead to the week that will be. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
Your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome into this WTSP Friday episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at eKlosky We are your credentialed members of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm the deputy editor of SB Nation's BucsNation.com. Evan is on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. And, of course, you can catch the show every Monday through Friday along with our everydayers. And for that, I would like to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, plus one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Head to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs to become an insider today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Lots of continued speculation and, I guess, frustration surrounding Baker Mayfield and the contract negotiations. And then, of course, what should Bucs fans expect coming up when the open negotiating window kicks off on Monday? That is all coming up a little bit later. But, Evan, it has been a long time since you and I had a conversation on this show. And the last time that you were on, Mike Evans was still kind of in limbo. We weren't sure if he was coming back or not, but Monday the deal comes down 2 years, $52 million, $35 million guaranteed, 29 of it in the first year, but only a little over $5 million is going to count against the salary cap. So I personally think that this was a good deal for both parties. I don't think I would consider it a team-friendly deal, but what was your initial reaction to the contract? And do you think this was team-friendly on Mike's part, or do you think this was pretty much what he was going to get on the open market in terms of average annual value?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much that. You know, we've talked about this before. Whatever 30 figure was floating out there was absurd. And, you know, Mike can earn the ability to make top 5 wide receiver money. But given his age, there was going to be a certain market. I am not a firm believer, as I mentioned before, you can roll back last week's episode, that there were going to be too many teams willing to give Mike any sort of like long-term deal. I can see plenty of teams trying to get a 1-year deal for Mike Dunn and trying to bring him in. But I don't think that's anything that Mike wants to do. So certainly not team-friendly, certainly not back-breaking. Mike probably deserves more money given his resume and his history, but given the circumstances and what his market value is, I would lean to say that this was a pretty good deal for both sides with a slight lean to a better deal for the Buccaneers. But it was surprising that Mike was first. I'll say that.
Yeah, it did kind of come down as a little bit of a surprise. I got the notification Monday. And, of course, my first thought was, of course, this would happen 25 minutes after the show went live on YouTube when I'm talking about the list of demands, essentially, that came from Derek Gilmore over the weekend, talking about how he wants to be paid as one of the top receivers in the NFL, and he wants to play with an elite quarterback, and the Super Bowl is a key priority, and he doesn't want to play with a rookie quarterback and all these things. So a lot of viewers and listeners have been saying, look, Mike isn't coming back if he's not aware of Baker coming back. And we're going to talk about Baker coming up in a little bit. But, I kind of agreed with you a little bit in the fact that his market may not have been as big as we first thought. Of course, you had T. Higgins get franchise tagged, and you still had Michael Pittman Jr. floating out there. But outside of T. Higgins, I still would have said that Mike Evans was the best wide receiver on the market. But at the same time, he's over 30 years old, so he wasn't going to get one of those 4 or 5 year deals. And any team that was going to sign him was looking at a 2 to maybe 3 year window to try to utilize him to win a championship.
He's getting the Rondé Barber, Levante David type contract. So I know they're saying like buck for life. It's not, I mean, it's only a 2 year deal, right? But given the fact that he'll be 30, 2, 3, once he kind of gets that contract finished up, then I'm sure the Buccaneers will put him on the 1 year plan or a 2 year plan if he's still doing what he's doing. But at this point, it seems like he's going to be staying in Tampa Bay unless he has just a swan song somewhere else and money's just too tight. But signing Mike Evans will have a ripple effect, as we can only imagine Chris Godwin will most likely not be back in 2025. So you really have to maximize this offense for what it's worth. And also entering the draft, you might have to have your eyes set on someone to maybe learn under Chris, who might eventually supplant him on the roster the next year. If you can sign Chris next year, I don't think that'd be a good thing, because then that probably means that Chris didn't have a great year. And I don't think that you can feasibly sign 2 wide receivers north of $20 million who are both trending out of their prime, right? I mean, you did it once, but they all had a bunch of good years left in them. Not to mention Chris Godwin didn't have a catastrophic knee injury. So, there's that to be accounted for as well. So I think that the team Mike Evans is a great first piece, and it signals the Buccaneers are not going to stop.
Yeah. And then, of course, the other big news that came down, since the last time you and I spoke, was the fact that Antoine Winfield Jr. got the franchise tag. There's been talks that they were trying to get a long-term deal done, but instead use this franchise tag pretty much as a placeholder. They're still going to work on that long-term deal.
They'll probably get one done.
Yeah. Any surprise that we're talking about potentially $20 million a year for Winfield?
What is surprising, and what the Buccaneers need to use a little bit as leverage, are the amount of safeties being waived and released by their teams. So obviously on the open market, or obviously in other organizations, they do not value that position very much, to the point where they want to shed their money from it. So Antoine's going to make that amount of – the thing is, yes, it's a safety, and if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm putting quotations up here. Antoine Winfield's a safety, but he does everything on the field. So you're paying him $20 million, but he also is everywhere. So he's an amoeba. He can shape into any different form you need. So I don't look at it linearly, like $20 million safety. I look at it like a switchblade knife, and he's going to do a bunch of things for you. And single-handedly, I would say, put this team into the playoffs this past year, because there's no way they were going to make it without him. So I do believe it's in the best interest of everybody to get a long-term deal done. But it all depends on what the Buccaneers have coming in, what they want, because then that dictates whether you need that franchise tag money to go down to help with the salary cap, or you can keep it and get a little bit of a discount on what Antoine would cost on the open market.
Yeah, he's going to be a $20 million defensive weapon. We'll just call him that. Yeah, he lines up at safety, but like you said, he does everything on the field, and the Bucs probably don't make the playoffs without him. Someone else they probably don't make the playoffs without is Baker Mayfield, and there's lots of speculation still swirling around him. That is coming up next here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. Coming up on Monday, as I mentioned on the live episode, I will be talking about my top 5 offensive and top 5 defensive free agents that the Buccaneers should be interested in. But in the meantime, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. One thing that Locked On Sports Today is not going to be talking about is the Tampa Bay Lightning doing anything good ever this season, because they stink. But we are here to talk about the Buccaneers, Evan, not the
Tell me how you really feel.
The Tampa Bay Lightning, who are destroying Kucherov's Hart Trophy season. There have been some conflicting reports around Baker Mayfield. I've talked about it the last couple of days. We had a report from Scott Reynolds, a Pewter report, about how far apart the Bucs and Baker Mayfield are on negotiations. We have Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times saying that he is not hearing the same things and he's not sure exactly where all of that came from. But what do you make of the current state of things between the Bucs and Baker Mayfield? Because one thing that I did mention is that the closer we get to this negotiating window, I had said about a month ago, I was at a 99.99% chance that I was sure that Baker Mayfield was the quarterback next season. And the closer we get to that window, the more I'm starting to come off that number. Not saying it's 50-50 or even like 70-30, but as soon as that window opens, there's that chance that things go awry. But how do you feel about how things are right now?
Who are you afraid is going to take Baker Mayfield?
I don't know. I mean, the Broncos have now, opened up their quarterback position. The Patriots are interested. The Vikings might lose Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons.
So you're telling me a new head coach in New England is going to take Baker Mayfield to be his lead quarterback in his first gig? You're going to tell me
Jones.
But it doesn't matter because the Patriots are not competing for anything right now. Why are they going to sink $30-some-odd million into Baker Mayfield and act like they're pushing for something when they should really be developing and building talent? Let's go to the Falcons. Raheem Morris just got his second opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL after like 15 years. Is he going to hitch his wagon on Baker Mayfield with a $35-something million contract?
With a coaching staff that has worked with Baker Mayfield before, and they know, they saw what he did last year. I can see it.
I'm not buying it, because in the end, Zach Robinson's a young dude. He's going to have plenty of opportunities. This is Raheem's last shot. So this is Raheem's call.
I do think that Kirk Cousins is probably most likely ending up in Atlanta if they don't trade for Justin Fields. But I would not rule out Baker going to Atlanta at all.
I think the Atlanta stuff is all smoke. My impression of Atlanta is that Atlanta is using their name, which they should. It's a good move by them. They're using their name to throw out, look, it's beneficial for them if the Vikings pay more for their quarterback, and that affects their salary cap. It is super beneficial for the Falcons, for the Buccaneers to pay Baker Mayfield more money and affect their cap. But I don't believe at all that they're going to go after Baker or Kirk. I think it's all price driving. I think that Kirk's going to stay in Minnesota, and I think that Baker's going to stay in Tampa. And I think that the Falcons are probably going to develop someone, because that's usually what happens when you get a new head coach. So I don't see that. I don't see Raheem coming in and spending a boatload of money. At least Kirk has a little bit more history of success, at least in the regular season. Maybe, but you know, the Baker thing is a 1-year thing in Tampa Bay, and the people who are very fond of him are the ones in Tampa Bay, the teammates, all that stuff. So to me, this is the agent doing agent-y things, which I think is the right move. I wholeheartedly believe that Baker Mayfield will be in Tampa Bay next season, and that number probably will be in the 30 to 35 range. And I assume they compromise somewhere on the higher side of the 35 part of that range, right? Like if we split it down the middle at 32 and a half, I'll say 32 and a half to 35 is where I expect that contract to land. He ain't getting 40. So that's not happening. He ain't getting 40 from anybody. So that's a ridiculous money. The starting conversation should be 30 for the Buccaneers, and the starting conversation for Baker's group should be as close to 40 as possible, with a 3 in front of it. 39.5 would be, if I was his agent, like a realistic shot. Because if that agent really gave like a $44 million as what you're going to pay me, I would be like, let me know when there's a 3 in front of that number. Backup scenario, if things go awry and I'm completely wrong, which I have been many a times, then I do think the Buccaneers would inquire about Russell Wilson.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense, and same thing of last year. But they don't have to pay him anything. They're going to make no money. Because it's not like, you know, Russell can go to the Buccaneers and be like, hey, I want to make $10 million, right? Well, he's already making that money. What you're doing is just allowing Denver to take $10 million out, cash that they're not spending anymore. So Russell's obviously going to want Denver to pay all their money. Why is he going to affect his new team with that? So, and and then Russell played in a similar offense in Seattle as the one that Liam Cohen's going to bring. So I think that would also be very QB friendly for him as well. But again, I don't expect that to be a thing. I'm just saying that if something went screwy, I do believe that the Bucs have an option on doing a 1-year deal with Russell and having just like last year, last year where they were cash strapped when they were signing their quarterback. If they don't sign a QB and they don't have to invest that money into Baker, I mean that's a lot of dough going back into your pocket where you can reinvest that into something significant on the defensive side of the ball, right? In the end, this doesn't matter because they're going to sign Baker. I go back to the bite that Jason Licht said in the combine, and he said it a couple of other times. But when you want a player and they want to be with you, deals are figured out. And that's how it was with Mike. That's how it's going to be with Antoine in a long-term deal. That's probably going to how it's going to be with Levante. That's how it's going to be with Chase McLaughlin, as long as he doesn't want Fairbairn money. And, I don't see a scenario where Baker is not with the Buccaneers next season. I just don't. And any suggestion to the contrary, outside of Kirk Cousins leaving Minnesota and the Vikings trying to pivot, which I think would be a fair pivot, and the Vikings would be a legitimate team to watch in that scenario, I think they are the only team that would be in the running for Baker Mayfield if something went south on the Kirk Cousins free agency train.
Well, we are going to take a look at Monday and what Bucs fans should expect when that negotiating window opens up. That is next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I love taking advantage of the flash deals when the event I'm going to gets closer, but there's no doubt that my favorite feature is the view from your seat, so I know exactly what I am paying for, and I'm not surprised when I get to the venue. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before checkout, and buying tickets in seconds with just 2 taps is super convenient, and I love being able to use Apple Pay right there on the app to secure my seats. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find the tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Wrapping things up here on a Friday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. And last year, it was right at the tail end of the negotiating window, if memory serves correctly, that Baker Mayfield agreed to a deal to join the Buccaneers on a 1-year contract. And now I expect Devin White will be one of the earlier players off the board in free agency as he finds a new home. But Evan, what should Bucs fans expect to see in terms of moves by Jason Licht, in your opinion, or maybe even a bold prediction when it comes to bringing players to Tampa Bay?
What I expect from Jason Licht is to take care of his house. I think the Buccaneers like to water their own seeds, and they've showed consistency in doing so. I think that Jason Licht will continue to add depth pieces in free agency. Think about like Greg Gaines. Think about what they did last year with Ryan Neal. Those are kind of the additions he likes to make in free agency, these 1-year type of additions. I will say if I had to predict the biggest splash that would happen in free agency, I would lean towards Jordan Whitehead. Maybe come back for a year. I know that a bunch of Buccaneers players had a field day on social media with the highlights that Whitehead released on X, formerly known as Twitter.
That's Twitter.
It would make sense for that addition, especially because the safety class is not too strong right now. Some good second, third, fourth rounders in this draft, but nobody who really is a first round grade like at all. So coming off a season where Ty Bowles had nobody to play that other safety, the Ryan Neal thing just didn't work out. It was a big old miss. My guess is he would like to get back to having someone he can rely on back there. So, there's that. I still don't think it's impossible to see Carlton Davis traded, but I think maybe that would depend on how the draft goes as well. But ultimately, free agency is going to come, and I think we're going to see even, kind of might happen over the weekend as well. We're just going to see the Buccaneers figure out their guys, get them in-house, sans Devin, and go from there, see how much money's left, see what they need, and then fill in the rest as far as like some backups go and in the draft.
Yeah, and I talked a lot about Jordan Whitehead on yesterday's episode. I've mentioned him and Mike Edwards numerous times, basically since the end of the season, as two guys, pick one that I would like to see come back and basically round out the other starting safety position opposite Antoine Winfield Jr. But Evan, you've kind of set me up for a fun little rapid fire game that I have ready for you. You said you expect Jason Licht to take care of his own, to water his own seeds, get the in-house guys back in-house. So we are going to go down the list of remaining Buccaneers free agents, and you are going to tell me if they are coming back or if Jason Licht is letting them go. And we are going to hold you to this, and you have to bat 1,000 here.
Got it.
Otherwise, you have to wear a Michigan shirt the Wednesday before Thanksgiving weekend.
Nope.
When we do WTSP Wednesday. You all heard him agree to that.
Not happening.
I'm going to edit your voice. I'm going to use AI to get you to agree to this.
Sadly, you can.
I know. Let's go down the list, and you let me know if these guys are coming back or if they're walking. Baker Mayfield.
Back.
Levante David.
Back.
William Golston.
Ooh. Back? Maybe.
Back, maybe. My opinion is if William Golston is going to play another season, it's with the Buccaneers. If he's,
I think he's
retire.
Yeah, I think that if he wants to play for a handful of shekels, why not? Right? Great guy. What was the next guy?
Oh, Devin White.
Gone. Chase Edmonds, I will say, stays.
Chase McLaughlin.
Actually, Chase Edmonds gone.
Chase Edmonds gone.
Only because I'm gonna allow Liam Cohen might want to have his own back. So I wouldn't be surprised either way. That's nothing against Chase. I just gave it another think, and maybe Liam has an idea of his running back that he wants. They
need two. I would love to see them bringing, whether it's Edmonds or another free agent, and then pair that with a running back in the draft. Fingers crossed that it's Estime. I think he'd be a lot of fun. But Chase, to me, I'm kind of with you. I won't be surprised if he's back, but I don't think it's going to kill them if he's not.
Yeah, it's not really money. I'm cool with it either way. Chase was a great leader for Rashad there. Rashad leaned on him a good amount. You said Greg Gaines?
Chase McLaughlin.
Oh, Chase McLaughlin back.
Now Greg Gaines.
I will say back.
Nick Leverett.
Back.
Zach Triner.
Back.
Cam Gill.
Gone.
D. Delaney.
Back.
David Wells.
Gone.
Matt Filer.
Gone.
Aaron Stinney.
Back if he can accept the fact that he might not start.
I think he can. I mean, he was kind of in that role last time. Ryan Neal.
Gone.
To ask. And Justin School.
We'll go back.
You and I agree. I kind of went through this list on yesterday's episode. You and I agree on pretty much everything, except I did have Cam Gill back. And then, like I said, I have Chase Edmonds kind of in that middle ground where either way, I think it's a smart decision. If they bring him back, I think that's smart. If they see someone like Liam Cohen once that fits his offense better, that's also smart.
Tough for me to know what I need to see Liam's offense to really understand what they're looking for. So I think that the Bucs have no problems bringing Chase back. I just think that that's a job where Todd's going to say, is this a running back that fits your style, or do we need to get someone else? And and I don't know what those discussions are, considering, when we heard Todd Bowles at the Combine, he pretty much said that, Liam's still trying to find his way around the building. They've had like one full staff meeting. He's trying to put plays together. So I don't know if they've gone there yet, but I'm cool with that. And Cam, I just want a change of scenery. Cam's been here a while. I like Cam Gill, but he might want more opportunity elsewhere.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, well, that is going to do it for this episode. Remember, on Monday, I'm going to give you my top 5 offensive and my top 5 defensive free agents that the Buccaneers should be interested in. And just a reminder for those that didn't see the live episode on Thursday, these are not going to be like your top tier free agents. These are going to be people that I believe the Bucs can afford and will make an impact. So keep that in mind, and don't come at me when you're like, why didn't you say Kevin Byard?
No, come at him.
It's going to be expensive.
Come at him. Please hold him accountable. No ask is too big.
The salary cap is a myth, and if they wanted to make something happen, they could. But that's neither here nor there. But if you're going to hold me accountable for it, also make sure that you hold Evan accountable for his.
Don't listen to this man.
And also, if Baker leaves, I want all of you just at eCloskey WTSP. Just hammer this man and force him to wear a Michigan t-shirt. You and I are going to have a bet of some sort before all is said and done. We will have an Ohio State Michigan bet. You'd think I would have learned my lesson after I have to wear a Taysom Hill shirt for the divisional preview next year. Please check out everything going on over at bucksnation.com. Check out Evan on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eCloskey WTSP. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.